Welcome to Growing Older with Gusto. I am Gail Zuckerman, the host of this podcast that's dedicated to the art of growing older in a positive and productive way. Today, we have Dan Metcalfe back. He is a repeat guest who's based in sunny California, unlike the rest of the country. And he is returning to the show to talk to you more about what he talked to you the last time. So if you didn't hear the first episode, please go back and listen because he got some rave reviews. And I have to say, Dan, since you've been on the show, I've had so many people telling me they're sipping water slowly, they're having a glass of water when they wake up. I'm slowing down myself. I'm trying, at least with the water. But it's just been great. So he's an epic man. For anyone who hasn't listened to the first episode, he has a coaching program that stemmed from a catastrophic injury. He started plays. He's done it all, really, and he's come around to create his own business, and it's fascinating. So, Dan, I know you were going to start out with something really memorable, so shoot.
Gail, thanks so much for having me back, and thank you to everybody that wrote in or listened to the first one and has taken action, because otherwise, why would we be here? But I want to share something right from the beginning, because I'm here with Gusto today.
Oh, you're here with Gusto. That's my husband. He thinks he's Gusto.
But again, we don't age if we keep playing. That's the bottom line. We don't stop playing because we age. We age because we stop playing. We'll get into this more. We talked about that in the first one. But I want to ask you a question. What is the most valuable thing you have, Gail, in your life?
My health.
Your health. And for anybody else that's listening, I'd love them to answer that question as well. Say it out loud, because when we say it out loud, we become cognitive and we don't jump around. Well, I'm going to change your view today, just a little bit of the most valuable thing we have in life. So if I said to you, Gail, I'm going to give you $1 million every single Friday for the rest of your life. It's guaranteed. It's in a holding account. Yeah, wow. I'm going to give it to everybody that's listening, $1 million every Friday for the rest of your life. And it goes on for a whole year. And then suddenly you're out one day, you've got $50 million sitting in the bank. You're walking down the street. It's hailing. There's rain coming down. There's wind blowing. You're trying to hold on. And you go to pull out something from your pocket, and $100 bill flies across the street into the water and is being washed away. With $50 million in your bank, do you think you'd really go running after that $100 bill?
I'd have to think about that one. I wouldn't want to risk falling and injuring myself, but I still think $100 is important. So
let me ask you to compare this one then. I give you $1,000 today and say to you, for the rest of your life, you can never earn another penny. Here's $1,000. That's it. You can't invest it. You can't grow it. It has to survive your lifetime. Exactly the same situation, and 1 cent fell out of your pocket. Would you go after that 1 cent? And that's the reality, because value is relative to what we perceive we have. So now I'd like people to understand the most valuable thing we have in life. And many people will say, my family, my kids. Some people will say, oh, I love my bags, my shoes. You said health. The most valuable thing we have in life is time.
Oh,
because when time is gone.
You're right. All we have is time. You're right.
And you're 100% right. I forgot. We keep forgetting, but we're spending those valuable seconds. I look at them like cents. If 1 second is lost without a purpose, we can never get it back, no matter how hard we try and go and get it. So today, while we go through this talk, and I'm so happy to be back here with you again, I want people to understand time is the most valuable thing you have. What you do with your time shows what's most important to you, because the magic we seek is in the work we avoid. We know we should do it, we don't invest, and yet we expect to return. So for everyone listening.
Is that like learning how to play golf?
Absolutely. If you love golf and you want to go and learn, that's what's most important to you for that time. Right. So I want everyone, think about the time, think about what you're doing with it, because I promise you, if you invest into you like you do, Gail, with your health and many other things that you do as well, we can all improve and reverse the system of aging.
Very interesting. That is so spot on, Dan. It's amazing. I have some other questions that are going to come up later in the podcast that people from all over the country have been asking me. But before we get to those, I wanted to ask you about some other questions I had that we didn't get to in the last episode. I was curious, how did the brain and the mindset drive healing and performance?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I didn't understand this until I lived it. As you know, and everyone that listened to the first podcast, I had a brain injury where I was unconscious for about 3 minutes. Part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again, learn to function, learn to move, went through PTSD, depression, massive weight gain compared to myself as an athlete, and didn't know. So I started studying the brain. Well, the brain is brilliant, but only when it's engaged. It's like a computer. You can have the most powerful computer in the world, but if you don't give it the right information and allow it to function, it's just a piece of metal sitting there with great potential. So mindset is what activates the brain outside of the autonomic system. The autonomic system is things like our heartbeat, our blood pressure, our body temperature, breathing, the things that we do without thinking. But the brain will only function to its highest level when we give it the information through our mindset, and the brain then goes to work. So it's really your best friend, and it is the center. So mindset is critical to believe and let the brain go to work, do what it does. So healing, performance. I was a head coach on the Olympic Development Program. We knew that performance was 80 to 90% mental. And the more I've studied, I've realized it's 100% mental, but we're all in the game of life. If we want to perform, we've got to engage the right mindset, because the brain will not do the opposite of what we believe in and what we tell it.
Very, very interesting. Keep thinking about that. Tell us, I mean, you had all these catastrophic injuries that people can learn about if they go back and listen to the first episode. How do you help people rise from a life injury or a life catastrophe like you had? And you had two.
Yeah, from the paralysis, that was kind of self-discovery that I didn't know. We always listened to the medical world and didn't invest in ourselves with our own belief. We run to someone else to fix us. Mm-hmm. And self-education, self-belief, being around people that have gone through what we're going through. So, for example, I work with about 800 people that have Parkinson's right now in a dedicated group. And when I looked online at Facebook and started seeing so many of the Facebook groups were fear-driven, they were pain-driven, they weren't solution-driven. Everyone understood the pain they're going through, and I feel for those people. But if we focus on the negative, that's what we're going to continue to live in. But with this group of around 800 people with Dr. Eckel, it's incredible. Everyone's positive. We become our environment. So after my injury and my paralysis, I became a personal trainer. I worked at Gold's Gym and Powerhouse Gym and a number of different places. And I always ended up getting the people coming in that were either out of shape, weren't healthy, or were coming back from injuries or sickness. Because most of the trainers just want the people that are healthy so that they can look good.
Right.
And I began to realize if someone has an issue, all I am is I'm helping them solve their problem. So I approached it with, what's the issue? What would you like? And then what's the solution to get there? And every problem this world has ever had from day one to day now has a solution. It just takes us time to find it. But the energy has to start with the person wanting to get better. Because if they don't care, then it doesn't matter what I do. And I've got a great story I'll share maybe a little later on about my mother.
And no, that's interesting, because I was going to talk about how I ended up being able to wear contact lenses successfully. And I had dinner the other night with someone who said, I can't wear them. I just can't wear them. And I remembered how I got to be able to wear them without any difficulty, sort of along the same parallels as your story, I'm sure.
Well, let me ask you really quick, because I'm curious. How did you change that from I can't wear them to now wearing them?
No, I never said I couldn't. That's the key. I never said I wanted them really badly. I'd been severely myopic since I was in second grade. So I always wore glasses when nobody wore glasses. And I was in what they now call middle school. I don't want to give away my age, but anyway, I was walking around blind for like a year. You know, socially, I didn't see people. They thought I was a snob, but I really couldn't see them. But it turns out it was my mother's way of motivating me to be able to wear them. So she let me stumble around for like a year without, doing anything drastically dangerous. And then for my birthday, she said, guess what? You're getting contact lenses the next year. So, that's great. I went in, no problem. And they were like amazed. We have football players in here, the guys, they can't put them in, but it was no problem ever. So,
Brilliant. And that's because, again, your mother helped you build the mindset
right.
to then see the reward, which meant the work was worth doing. Love it.
Hear it for good moms.
Yeah.
So, what is the emotional root of physical pain and disconnection? Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, very interesting question. So we know that pain, and look, there's different kinds of pain. We have emotional pain, we have physical pain, we have really one of the biggest things I see is self abuse pain, where we continue to allow ourselves to suffer because we either don't want to face the truth or the reality of where we are, or we're waiting. And I use the word hope. Hope for me is a procrastination where we're waiting for someone to come along. So when you have this pain that's coming in, and let's go to physical pain. If someone's going through a physical resistance and we're feeling it and it's affecting our day because now our brain becomes conscious of the receptors that are sending back the messaging to the brain going, this is a negative. Well, we can't ignore it, because over time what happens is receptors will stop feeling the same pain at the same way. We've all been there. We can try and turn off that pain, or it's so bad eventually the brain goes, I need to stop feeling this and focus on other areas that are drawing away, but the issue's still there. So I look at it and say, from a plan point of view, let's find what you can do, because it's critical to have blood flow to heal. That's so important. The sensory messaging from the injury to the brain needs to have a consistent feedback so we can tell when we're getting better or getting worse. We then have to say, okay, what can I do to create a movement around the area? So let's just talk about that. Let's just go the elbow. My elbow's hurting. I can't even bend or straighten my elbow. Okay, well, we don't want to go to that point yet where we're starting to increase the movement. You want to start looking at your wrist. Can I move my wrist? Because again, all the messaging, the blood's flowing past through the elbow. At the same time, we might want to say, I want to move my shoulder. So we get movement going, which creates the ability for the brain then to go, okay, let's focus on the elbow, rest it, start seeing if I can get a little bit more movement. I can each day. Then we begin to believe that we're going to heal. And this happens in any part of the body. It happens in also the psychological situations that we go through. Whatever we fear and whatever we don't engage in will continue to be a problem. Like the third law of nature, whatever you resist persists. So face it, but be smart. Don't encourage that old saying, no pain, no gain, isn't quite true. So smarts, and I'm not sure if that answers your question, but certainly the brain to body connection is critical.
I totally agree. I know we have limited time today, so I'm thinking maybe we'll jump into some questions from listeners. How does
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
please do.
So we will start out with Joel in Jupiter, Florida would like to know, how does coffee impact the amount of water you drink?
Yeah, great question, Joel, and thanks for sending in the question. It really is not about coffee itself, because we know that 98 to 99% of coffee is water. So theoretically, it should be hydrating us. But it depends on when you drink the coffee and relative to the hydration factor it has. So we know coffee is a light diuretic. We know it's going to spike your cortisol, your insulin levels. So if you want to enjoy drinking coffee, what you want to do is get up in the morning and have in the first hour 8 to 12 ounces of water. We want to hydrate first, because the effect of the cortisol release, the insulin release that comes on from coffee, can actually make us not less hydrated, less effective in hydration, because there's other now nervous system reactions going on to coffee, which is the caffeine, the spike. So I would say this would be my protocol. I don't drink coffee myself, so I'm not coming from an expert point of view of a participant.
But I just a little add-on question. I read somewhere they say for every cup of coffee you drink, you should drink 2 cups of water to dilute the coffee. Does that make sense to you, or not?
Yeah, absolutely. There's different studies out there saying 1 to 1, 2 to 1. I look at it and say, if you took it over the day, you really shouldn't be drinking coffee after really 1 o'clock in the afternoon anyway. And so if you equal that up with water through the rest of the day, it should equal it out. But I'm a big believer First hour, water, have some protein, have some fats that takes away the negative effect and leaves more of a positive effect of the caffeine. Then about 90 minutes into the day, after you've gone for a walk or after you've had some exercise, have your coffee. But now when you have the coffee, the nervous system goes, oh, here's the release, here's the cortisol. I'm expecting to have more energy because I must be doing something.
Dan, I can't have my espresso like right into the cup of water. I have to walk the dog and then come back for the
Well,
coffee.
it's better for you. Again, it's just the way our body's designed.
I get it.
After you have it,
Don't
you
work
want,
on sipping the water. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, that should cover the first, hour to 90 minutes of the day as well, sipping it. After you've had coffee, you want to do some form of movement because the body doesn't realize that the spike of cortisol, the energy that's being released, the raise in sugar that's into our blood from a release of energy is expecting to do some work. So when we have coffee and then sit down, and this is why we end up turning that energy into overload of fat in reality, it's because the body goes, okay, I've got to go do some work. Here's my spike. I got this energy. Oh, I'm not doing anything. But what it does do is it raises the internal energy of your body and the heat of the coffee. So our respiratory system and our heart rate goes up, which means we actually need more water once we've drunk coffee because the body is still feeling that extra potential of dehydration.
So Dan, that was great. I got to move on. In the interest of time, I have a few more great questions, and I know you have great answers. Ellen in St. Louis would like to know, how do you work around the pain from a neck injury after a setback so that you can continue exercising?
Yeah, great question. Again, I know that from when I fractured my spine, I was paralyzed on stage in the Lloyd Webber show. So again, the first thing to do is to evaluate what you can and cannot do. You don't want to aggravate the injury. We want to look at anti-inflammatories. I'm a huge believer in red light therapy. Huge believer.
Are you really? Okay.
Oh yeah, I have 4 different.
Sure if that was a hoax or what? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge believer in it. Great for anti-inflammation, great for healing. I have 4 different red light devices relative to what I'm looking to work on. But again, you've got to get mobility. I remember when I fractured my spine, I had swelling in the back. And over time, because I wasn't moving it, I began to atrophy. That means the muscles are beginning to lose their strength. So I had to start getting movement, find exercises that I could do without aggravating the injury to strengthen the muscles. And even to this day, we're talking 30 years after my injury, if I don't continue to support and strengthen the muscles, the spine starts taking the stress and weight, and that can increase the pressure between the vertebrae on the disc because it's now holding itself up. So, and get rid of the inflammation, rest and recover when you need. I'm a big believer in red light therapy. Start finding movements that you can do and strengthen the muscles in your upper back, in your shoulders, and in your chest to support the neck. But it's so critical, get mobility going slowly and don't overdo it in one day. Do a little bit, see how you feel the next day. I feel good. Good, repeat it. Make sure you feel good the day after. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit more. You wake up the next one, it's a little sore. Okay, go backwards a little bit. You just pushed it a little bit too far and engage the brain into saying to that neck injury, I'm going to heal before you go to bed at night. You heard this in the first one. Brain, go to work, fix my neck.
One more question. I have so many questions, Dan. I don't know if
I can give shorter answers. Jump in.
Okay. This is from Debbie in Chicago. What meditations on YouTube do you recommend, and how long do you think one should meditate each day?
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for the question. I'll keep this really short. There's a lady called Dr. Desi Bartlett, who I think is great. That's DESI BARTLETT. She has lovely meditations. I don't meditate every day. I meditate when I begin to feel that I either want to visualize something that I'm going to go after and I want to plan the path, or if I'm beginning to feel stressed, I'll get into breath work. I think breath work is important. There's also another gentleman by the name of Dr. Patrick Porter, Porter, that has a headset with meditations. Those are my 2 go-tos.
Great. Any exercises that you find are really helpful in helping people get to sleep?
Yeah, really important.
I know it's an whole other conversation, but to fall asleep or create a deeper sleep.
Yeah, it's really important that you set up a routine that you stay consistent with. You can't expect to be doing different things every day and then end up just being able to fall asleep. So get into a consistent pattern, trust it. I love to read. If I want to go to bed at around 9:30, sleep at 9:30, I'll start reading. My favorite writer is Mitch Albom, but I'll start reading maybe about 8:30. I really enjoy it.
Have you read twice?
What's that, sorry?
Read his book twice?
I haven't, but I've got it here, ready to read. I mean, here it is. I can just pull it out right here.
Yeah, it's a great read.
So no, I love him. And you get excited reading, then you want to keep reading, but then it brings this parasympathetic relaxation. And then because you're off of your screens, let the room be dark. And then when you fall, or when you're trying to go to sleep, this is critical. If you can't sleep, don't get frustrated. Just take it as I'm not meant to be sleeping right now. I'll go into breath work and I'm going to start focusing on something I love in a relaxing way, maybe a beach, something that doesn't excite you, but something that relaxes you. And over time, it will work.
Another question from Ellen in St. Louis. What would be on your list of superfoods that people should eat every day?
Oh, I love that, Ellen. So I'm huge into, some of my foods that I love, eggs. Protein is so critical. We really need that. Creatine, which is not a food, it's a supplement. I'm big on. It's getting more and more clinical studies coming out on the effect of brain and body health. I love sweet potatoes, not every day. I think our filtration system in our body and our nutrient needs aren't always going to be the same every day. If we exercise more one day and don't for 3 days, it's different than what we need. So variety, I love Brussels sprouts, broccoli. You start getting into some of the, I do eat pasta sometimes, especially if I've got a race coming up in 48 hours. I love that. Chicken is great. But I'm big into a little amount of supplements. There's a great company, if I can say, and I'm not sponsored by them, I'm not paid to say this, called Nutriments, Nutriments, that have all natural, incredible supplements, but I don't take them every day because the body should be creating its own. And if we take too much of one thing to support the body goes, I don't need to create it, and we can create a longer problem. So I might take something once every 2 days, once every 3 days, or as I feel my body getting.
Very interesting. Let's see. Lisa in Jupiter, Florida any suggestions you can give Lisa for motivating someone who is not as interested in improvement in any area of their life?
Yeah. So again, great question. And that happens to so many people. We all know people that just aren't motivated. It's not motivation that's missing. It's actually lack of vision or goals or dreams of doing something. They've actually been numbed down to just accept their life the way it is. I had a company called DMS11. D stood for discipline. So what I bring, motivation is what the person has to bring, and together we'll have success. And it's really hard until they decide, I want to do something and I'm willing to put in the work. Until they're willing to do that, it's very hard. So what I advise, get them to think about what they did when they were younger. Really quickly. All my balance training systems, I've trained over 70,000 people for balance mobility, as we know. Incredible success. Nobody wanted at the age of 60 to look at an 80-year-old that was doing great because they hadn't been there. They didn't understand it. And they say that's incredible, but it wasn't for them. What I found is everybody wants to see people 20 years younger doing stuff and want to be like that again. So if you can get them to tap back into what they used to do 20 years ago and say, let's work towards it. What would it feel like? Get them to feel, get them to emote, get them to talk about the things they love to do. And then the question is, would you like to do that again? Because if you do, you can. And once we get them to that point, now we can start installing the beginning of inspiration for their motivation.
Interesting. That's very helpful. That's great. And I hope it's helpful for Lisa. I have a few more questions, but I think we might have to go to another episode for them. Anything else you want to talk about to our listeners that we have? We have a couple of minutes to wrap up. Listeners, what is your educational background? And how did you decide to turn everything from your experiences into a business?
Yeah, great. Again, I come from being an athlete back in England to going into dance. I became a professional dancer, singer, actor, really studying the body. Then I went through my paralysis. Once I became paralyzed and realized the doctors and physical therapists weren't there to fix me, they were there to put me through the system. And they said to me, Dan, you'll be disabled for life, just sign here. I knew that they weren't invested into me. So I have 3 letters after my name. It's Dan Metcalfe, RL.E. And everyone comes and listens to me because of those, when I speak, because of those 3 letters. It stands for real life experience. So yes, I graduated from...
As my great uncle would say, the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, life was my greatest lesson. But I graduated from Bournemouth Grammar School with A and O levels back in England. I went to Wharton Business School on an executive course during COVID. I had 3 different companies that come in, but my grandfather was a GP doctor. My mother's a doctor. And when I came back, I decided I wanted to study for myself. And then by accident, I helped so many people get better, including Bob Eubanks, Shirley MacLaine, who I worked with, Bob Eubanks from the Newlywed Game. And the business started not because I started it. We were having so much success. I was getting more out of patients in 15 minutes from working with them directly than physical therapists were in 3 months.
I have one other question. Would you be willing to come back and talk about this on another episode?
Oh, I'll come back every single day for you, Gail, and for your listeners.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. That's really, really sweet. Anyway, thank you so much. And for our listeners, if anybody has any more questions for Dan, go to www.growingolderwithgusto.com and email me a question if you have a question for Dan, and share this with your friends. If you think you have a friend who might be interested in what Dan has had to say today, please share that with them. Dan, thank you. I hope you continue to have good weather in California.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And, we will talk soon.
Thank you so much again for having me on. And love to everyone that's out there listening and your families, because again, we're all born superhuman. We just need to tap into the miracle within.
Very good. Thank you. I'm hoping that I'm that way too.
You are.
Okay. Bye, Dan.